So, I was asked a little recently, how do you play Gwent? Because I keep losing and I don't know why. So, I decided I'd make a short tutorial video on how to just play Gwent. Okay, so really the first thing I should probably start with, I've emptied my Temeria, my Northern Realms deck, and I thought I should start by explaining a little of how you build a deck, because in the game, they give you a pre-made deck with your very first set, which is the Northern Realms one. So you don't really get an idea of what you have to do in order to really build your deck. Now there are one or two factions out of the four, the Scoia'tael and the monster decks actually encourage large decks if you've got the right cards for it. Whereas really for the Nilfgaardian set and the Northern set, you really want a shorter deck that's a bit more refined. So first of all, I'll go through some of the cards that you have. Okay, so you've basically all your information is going to be down that left hand side of the card. In the top left hand corner, that's your card's power. That's the score it will give you when you play that card. The next one down, the orange circle, that's telling you what type of card that is. So you can see these ones here, they are the close combat unit cards. Okay, just going through quickly, you then have ranged unit cards, and you have your siege unit cards. There's one other type, and that is the special cards, which are all listed here. Okay, so what does all this mean? And you may have also noticed there's sometimes a third symbol underneath. These are special cards with a special ability. Okay, so how do I build a deck? Well, you want your strongest cards. That's without a shadow of doubt. However, you do also want to be looking at the abilities as well. Having strong cards doesn't guarantee you victory, because if your opponent has special cards, they may be able to trump them. So, one last thing I should tell you about the cards is you also have neutral cards. You'll notice on that top row there with Zoltan Chive as the first character, there's no banner down the left hand side, whereas the ones in the next row down have a blue banner. Well, the ones without a banner at all are neutral cards that you can use in any of the decks. But like I said, let's build a deck first with the Northern Realms, because that's the one that you will all have. Okay, so you do want to be looking for high numbered, so if you've got something like 15 in that top left hand corner, you certainly want that in your deck. The skull icon on this card here, ooh, there we go. The skull icon on that one there is, there you go, destroy your enemy's strongest close combat unit if the combined strength of all his or her close combat units is 10 or more. So you'll want cards like that, to be perfectly honest with you. Things that will give you a bit of versatility. Anyway, for now, I will just pick some cards, because you want a good variation of cards as well. You'll pretty much always want your character cards, which are the ones where the number in the top left hand corner is black. That's a hero card, and they are particularly useful. Okay, so you'll also notice in the centre there, it tells you your total cards in the deck, it tells you your number of unit cards, and the number of special cards. Now, you need at least 22 regular unit cards. That's why the number's in red there. You have to get to 22 of those, and then you can add however many special cards you want on top. Or in fact, you can add more unit cards if you really want to as well. But like I said, the Northern Realms and the Nilfgaardian sets, you want a smaller, more refined deck. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll take some of those because they've got special symbols. Take a couple of those. Okay, so we're at 11 as already. Now, you want a bit of a mix. So you do want some range characters in there as well. Not enough that you want to dilute your set, but you do want some pretty strong cards in there. So, okay, I need a few more unit cards in order to make this up. Maybe take a few more range characters. And I'll just take some strong fighter class characters as well. Okay, so that's got 22, and to be honest, I think that's probably my strongest set of characters that I could have taken for that, really. So like I said, I'll explain some of the abilities later. I'll show them in action so you can decide which ones you want. Okay, so next thing we want to do is look at our special cards, which are the ones at the very end here. Okay, I'll explain the decoys a bit later, but they are quite useful. You can basically take a card back. Commander's Horn, they're always useful. I'm going to take some of these weather ones. They're ones that you can use to weaken your opponent. So I tend to take one of each, just because you never know. So that leaves me 29 cards within the deck. It's actually a bit large, if I'm perfectly honest with you, but a lot of these cards that I've taken, especially the decoys and the Commander's Horns, can really help you turn the tide of a battle if you find you're struggling. Okay, so now a bit about when you've got a few more cards and you may want to change your factions. Okay, so every faction has its own special ability. So your Northern Realms one, you get to draw a card from your deck whenever you win a round, so it gives you extra cards in order to carry on, which is a really good ability. I think that's the reason why they've given you the Northern Realms to begin with. They're probably the easiest faction to play as. Scoia'tael, you decide who goes first at the start of a battle. Sometimes it can benefit you to go first, sometimes it benefits you to go second. One randomly monster card stays on the battlefield after each round if you choose the monster deck. Again, it's something that could possibly help you later. It's a bit of a crapshoot, that one, but there we go. And then of Guardians, you win wherever there is a draw. Okay, so on top of that, you then have leader cards who basically, if you press the X button during your turn, you get to trigger a special ability rather than taking your regular turn. So the one you'll start off with is this one, which is you pick an impenetrable fog card from your deck and you play it instantly. So you always want to make sure you've got an impenetrable fog in your deck whenever you use this card. However, it's better if you don't have it in your hand, if I'm perfectly honest with you, because otherwise you don't get to use the special ability. Okay, so there are other leaders you can get for each one. You can unlock them over the course of the game. Clear any weather effects, double the strength of all your siege units, or destroy your enemy's strongest siege unit. Okay, the other factions, again, I've got a few more of these actually. Some of them are very similar to do with weather effects and things like that. You can draw extra cards with certain ones, but either way you pick them depending on your style of play, but for the purposes of this, I am going to stick with the default one. So the draw an impenetrable fog card. Okay, so at this point we have our deck. You pick your strong cards, you throw a few abilities together, and you basically do it that way. Okay, so here we have someone who probably wants to play with us, and we'll whack that right up.
What would you say to a little game of Gwent?
Okay, so what's going to happen here is you first of all pick your faction. I've already done all this, so I am going to go ahead with this one. Start the game. Okay, so here we have our screen. Basically, you get the choice to redraw 2 cards. So like I said, when you're playing as Foltest, you really do not want to have these impenetrable fogs in your hand. You want them in the deck, but not in your hand. So I definitely want to get rid of that one. Unfortunately, I've gotten a really bad hand here, but I'm going to get rid of a Biting Frost anyway. Okay, that's actually worked out quite good for me there. I'm just going to use this to show off a couple of abilities more than anything else. Okay, so my first move in this one, basically, just to explain the setup of the screen, you notice you've got your little character portrait there, and next to that you've got a row of cards that tells you how many, with a number next to it, that tells you how many cards you currently have in your hand. On the far bottom right hand corner you can actually see how many cards are left in your deck, so how many cards you can possibly draw within this game, and the 2 little jewels next to the 10 number on your portrait, that's your life. So every time you lose a round, you lose one of those gems. So okay, I haven't got a very good set of cards here, but we'll go with it anyway for the time being, because I've got one thing I can show off, which is this. I can play one card there, and you'll notice there's two hands shaking on there. Basically what that means is that if I place the same card next to that one again in the combat row, because you've got your combat cards which go into this one, ranged go into the middle, and the siege go into the bottom. And basically what you can see on that, the numbers then all next to it, the ones where your portrait is, where in the center on the right hand side you have a score there. That's how much you have currently scored. On each row, so your combat row for example, if you follow the row along that's highlighted there after the horn, you'll notice there's a number there. That tells you how much score is currently coming from that row. That becomes important when you start getting weather effects and things like that. So anyway, for the time being, I'm going to show off what that little hand symbol means. Basically, if you place it next to a card with the same name, it doubles the strength of both cards. So there we go. I get to imply that there. And there you go. They're now both worth 8 rather than 4. Okay, so you have to remember that the Northern Realms' ability is it gets a card for each round you win. You get to draw an extra card. But also, Foltest can use Impenetrable Fog at any moment as well. So essentially, I don't want to use that when I've been using my ranged characters. So okay, I'll play my ranged characters in this round then and save for another round. Okay, this is an interesting ability here. That little thing, the two things put together, you get to search your entire deck and any ones of the same card type. So let's go and have a look at him here. Basically, the Necker, if you have any other Neckers in your deck on the top right hand corner where he has his deck there, if he had 7 of those in his deck, they would have all just gotten played. That's what the two little armoured helmet symbols mean. Very good. It makes your deck very unpredictable. That's why you want a larger deck if you're playing as the monster unit or the Scoia'tael. They're ones which have those abilities in a lot as well. Okay, so like I said, I want to carry on with my tactic here of just using up some of my bow users. Okay, he's used an Impenetrable Fog, which has drastically cut my score there. So I can see I can use my dummy card here. Dummy cards, this is one of the reasons why they're useful. This isn't the most useful use of them, but basically I'm going to take back my Death Mold card because I know that's worth a lot and it'll only reduce my score by 1. So there we go. Okay, so he's not passing. He only has 5 cards left. So if I pass this round now and deliberately lose, there's a very good chance he'll just pass the next round. I get to use a weak card and just win. That's what I'm thinking here. So there you go, he wins the round. There you go, that's the Monster's Ability card in action there. So hopefully he will just pass. Or not. Okay. And he used another interesting card there. Basically, the monster and the Scoia'tael units get these abilities where you see the 2 arrows formed in a circle. That means you can put it into either close combat or ranged. You get to pick between the 2. So right now, he has me on the back burner a little. So once again, I will use my ranged character. Now he'll probably pass. There you go. Okay, so at this point I'll use my weakest card, which is that one, and I will pass. Now this is the Northern Realms ability, not that one. The next one, I get to draw a card at the beginning of the round, and let's hope it's something good. No, that's not good for me at all. I'm having awful luck seeing as I'm making this video. It knows. Right, okay. So, I'll start by throwing down some of those. Now, really, what I'm hoping for is more for him to be putting down cards in the range. That's what I'm really hoping for. I'm not sure whether he will. Right, I'm going to use a character card here. This doesn't have any special abilities to it, but when I throw him down, what happens then is if he was to use a weather effect or something like that, it would not affect me. That basically, character cards are immune to both buffs and to negative effects. So if I was to play a horn, if I had one, which the horn card doubles the strength of everything in that row, that card would be exempt from it. But at the same time, if my opponent was to use a biting frost card, which usually brings every unit on the combat row down to 1, it would not affect him. That's what's good about the character cards. Okay, so he has 2 cards left. I'm hoping he doesn't have anything too great. Okay, he's not putting the cards where I want him to. So, what I'm going to do here is... It may seem like I'm screwing myself here, but in fact what I'm doing is I am just stalling. So there we go. I have a clear weather card, so I know what I'm doing here. Okay, I missed what he did there. He removed a weather effect. Okay, so he removed the impenetrable fog. Was that the one from me? No, it wasn't. Okay, so at this point, I'm going to clear the weather. Because I still have 1 play left after this, which I can still employ. I'm hoping... Okay, he's using a clear weather, and I've won this already. But just for the sake of it, the reason why I've kept my ability towards the end is because if I was in a losing situation and I would say, or say we were drawing at this point, I could then use this. I have no one left in my ranged, so there we go. It reduces his by 1. So there you go, a win. Even with a pretty bad set of cards. Okay, there we go. Right, I'm actually going to separate this into 2 videos. I'll make another one shortly in a moment. I'll see if I can get a decent set of cards together and explain a bit more about the abilities, and maybe... I don't think I can really show the Scoia'tael or the monster cards too well, because I don't have a big enough set of those to be able to show off those abilities, those other abilities. So, hopefully next time I'll get a chance to look at some of the abilities within the Northern Realms deck. Okay, so I'll catch you then. Okay, bye!